Hi friends, I have to talk to you. You know about conspiracy theories, right? You are maybe aware of the fact that there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are actually fake. But do you know, in the field of Chinese medicine, of Tai Chi, Qigong and so on, there's a conspiracy theory going on that people are usually not aware of, but it's actually a conspiracy having become real in the last 40 years? I think I messed up my nose. I've got good page numbers. Okay, let's just start with this. What are conspiracy theories? In essence, you can say that conspiracy theories are ideas that people have that there are large secretive organizations which are trying to influence the course of things. There are, of course, conspiracies, but they are very often more in the open than that you think, because if an organization is very large, it is also continuously under investigation, because we are all very critical of anybody trying to control this. People by nature, they are suspicious, and they are maybe a little bit naive and a little bit stupid, and they don't really understand a lot of things, because our educational system is not necessarily built to understand things. It is actually made in most countries to be able to become a good professional and to be as little human as possible, because otherwise, if you are human, you might not comply with the rules of the company or the government you work for. And as a result of that, there is a lot of coloration going on. So these are the legal things. And the legal things basically also make us suspect that there are people behind that try to, struggle with that and try to make things different. And actually that happens too, because there are revolutionaries, there are counter-revolutionaries, there are religious people, there are spiritual people, there are all kind of people who have different kind of ideas. In my study of Taoism, I found out that every Taoist has more or less its own form of Taoism in the way how it expresses itself. When I was studying at the University of Amsterdam, I was studying the history of Western esoterics. And at that moment I found out also there are so many different kind of ideas from people. Nobody really seems to agree about something. And that's the reason why people write things down, because then at that moment there is like a general idea, like this must be the truth because this is written down. And with conspiracy theories, there is a lot of writing going on, and there's only proof from each other. And there's a sort of circular reasoning in conspiracy thinking through which you are always right. And if you have the feeling that this is correct, then at that moment you become part of that conspiracy theory and you try to prove that it is right or wrong. So you try to look for signs that it's actually true or false. Is it valid? Well, sometimes, because sometimes conspiracies appear to be true and sometimes they're actually not true. And the thing is that it is very difficult to understand when they are true or not true. And through the internet, things have not become more easy, because we get flooded every day with a lot of information. And certainly in the field of Chinese medicine, where I am working at, and the Taoist medicine, which I am more specialized at, in the field of anti-aging and mortality practice, in Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong, Daoyin, meditation, herbal medicine, food medicine, and so on and so forth. All these kind of things, Taoism itself, also, of course, as a Taoist, I cannot ignore that. And all these kind of things, there are a lot of ideas going on, and a lot of these ideas are faulty, they are false. And at the moment when people are being criticized on this, then very often they feel like, oh, maybe there's a conspiracy going on against us. But there are conspiracies taking place in the open, and you might actually be a part of why it is still there. And in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the how and what of these kind of things in Chinese medicine, and what they actually mean and where they come from. First of all, when we talk about Chinese medicine, there's a whole range of fields which we can call Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is including ritual, exorcism, there is meditation, there is Neidan, alchemical practice to become an immortal. There's all kind of things part of it, and in some cases there's qigong, and there is tai chi chuan in some cases also, and there is acupuncture, massage, subsidiary techniques like gua sha and moxa and cupping, all these kind of things, plus herbal medicine, food medicine, and so on. So the range of Chinese medicines is huge, and they're all part of one core theory, which I normally only discuss extensively within the context of the IOC Daoland Bachelor program. I point out some things in videos very frequently, and one of the core tenets is the misunderstanding of particular kind of concepts, which I come across as a translator, because I translate a lot for things which you can find in the Shifu Guide, but also in the Bachelor program. You find a lot of things which you then not find in the Shifu Guide. The reason is that at the moment when you look deeper into a particular kind of culture, it is always different from what you think you know about it. And there's always going to be nuance and more nuance and more nuance. And as a result of that, at a certain point, you start realizing things were not exactly what I thought they were. So let's see what it then means actually. And in the Chinese medicine course, we point out that things like energy, essence, and spirit for Qi, Jing, and Shen usually are false, and they are more Western than that they are actually Chinese, even though China is in this modernization cycle where they try to acquire ideas from Western esoterics, and they try to incorporate them within their ideas of Chinese medicine as they see it now, for political reasons, for economic reasons, for all kinds of reasons, which is not necessarily in accord with history, because they think history was stupid and it was not right. Even though at the same time they try to make it look like, oh, we Chinese, we have a continuous civilization which is already there for 5,000 years or longer. And even though to a degree that is true, modern China, the new China, is not the same as the old China. And actually from dynasty to dynasty, you can see that every dynasty turned a little bit against the previous dynasty. And as a result of that, they also try to deform and reform the ideas from this dynasty and change things. For instance, we have the concept of holism in the West. There's a nice example. And Hunyuan is seen as holism in Chinese culture. And although Hunyuan as a concept was basically becoming famous because of Neo-Confucianism in the Ming Dynasty, Hunyuan nowadays is being associated with holism in general. But Chinese medicine is not holism per se, because although everything is seen as a whole and interconnected and so on, it is not like the press button thing, or you can see everything through one thing like we see in the West. The idea of ear acupuncture, which is then a holist principle, is originally not from China, although there are proto-holist concepts in Chinese culture, but the idea was actually developed in Europe, and therefore the influence on China made a innovation spree in Chinese medicine possible, through which there were all kind of methods, holist concept of methods, which originally in Western phrenology, the understanding of the reflection of the whole body in the skull. And the real holism for Chinese culture is both hierarchical and categorical at the same time. That means there is a hierarchy from top to bottom, and there is a communication between top and bottom, but there's also categorical. If you look, for instance, at yin-yang, there's yin concepts and yang concepts. They relate to each other, and they interrelate with each other, these two categories. And there's also the Wu-Xing, the 5 ways of communication, the 5 ways of consuming, actually, in that sense, as organic concepts. And these organic concepts, they form categories, and these categories are hierarchical, and they interact with each other in particular kind of patterns, and so they are both holistic and hierarchical at the same time. While in the West, like for instance, when I was talking with an old acquaintance of mine some time ago, he asked like, what am I actually doing? And I was explaining, said, oh, so you are into hierarchies. That's old-fashioned, that is 19th century. We are all nowadays in holism. And that is actually not true. You're not in holism. You just believe that there's a particular kind of model which seems to be holist, but there is no actual proof for that. And certainly not in Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine is often used as proof of that holism. And it's the same with energy theory. The idea of the channels in the body, which are usually called meridians, they are very often seen as a proof of this holism because there's a circulation of energy through all these channels. But that is actually not the case because there's no energy in these channels. According to the Chinese medicine classics, there is steam and condense in these channels, and they are part of the water of your body, and the heating of this water actually causes the steam, the yang, to go up and the condense to come down. And this purification process, as a percolation process, has to gradually purify your water, and as a result of that has to help you make the body function better, and as a result of that make you go back to what is called yuan qi. And there we come to another concept, which is something very confusing, because qi is the thing that is usually translated as energy. And in the original translations from older texts, you see that, for instance, in Mencius, the way how qi is being used, it's related to taste. In this time, it is still used for the fragrance and taste of things. So this is not bad necessarily. So that means that if you eat something and you feel the qi of something, that means it tastes good. But the qi actually is a reference towards the jing. The jing is the thing that makes the thing what it is. Like a chicken has a particular kind of jing, a coherence, which makes the chicken chickenish. And for us humans, our jing makes us humans. And this humans, this being human, of being chicken, that is our nature. And our nature, in that sense, is the same as the form of our body. So the word thing for nature is not a psychological or an emotional or a spiritual term, but it's actually that's what makes us us. And that is what is described in the Tao Te Ching, where it says the Tao Ke Tao Fei Cang Tao. That is actually the reason why I actually started this item, because there was a lot of discussion on the internet about Tao Ke Tao Fei Cang Tao, what it actually means, and I pointed out that it is actually pretty much a Christianized concept, and that actually the Chinese doesn't necessarily give proof for that meaning. So Tao Ke Tao Fei Cang Tao means basically the things, the Tao that actually does itself, that actually is Taoing. That is amazing Tao, it's great Tao. So it's the thing, and the next sentence, Ming Ke Ming Fei Chang Ming, is the same. The name that actually expresses itself properly, that is actually an amazing, great name. And for us as individuals, when we are being human, when we are really being human in the full nature of our being human, that means our sing has been completed, our form has been completed. That starts with our outer form, like what we practice in Qigong. The first and lowest level of Qigong and Tai Chi Chuan is the development of Jing, and the lowest development of Jing has to lead to a proper human form. In a proper human form, you can develop qualities inside yourself that are specifically human, and therewith you can also organize your relationship with the environment around you, the people around you, with the cosmos at large, maybe with deities or with a deity. Everything is possible depending on what you want. Then, at the moment when we look at the Qi further, you can see that there are a lot of concepts in this concept of energy, which in the West can be translated in different kind of things. That's, for instance, associated with vital force, that's associated with breath, that's associated with energy, and so on and so on. All these kind of meanings, they can all be true to a particular kind of degree, in the same way like how I saw one time I saw a translation of Qi in Mozi, meaning love. So all these kind of things, they can be true. And there's a name for this, and I have to look it up. And the idea is namely that the word Qi is a polysemy. Polysemy means that a word can have different meanings under different circumstances, but it actually only becomes that in relationship to the translation process. So the word Qi seems to be able to mean different things in particular settings because of the comprehension of that what we translate. And that doesn't mean that Qi necessarily means all these things. Because if you read back into the Chinese language and you see the word Qi, then almost always the Qi concept is associated with something else. Like Qi as air is true in the way how it's being used in the present, because then Qi is translated as air by everybody, so that must be true. But in reality, we actually talk about Kong Qi, and it means the functionality of emptiness. So this space, which in Chinese medicine and Chinese culture, Chinese philosophy, I Ching study, is seen as that what is heaven that is around us, then at that moment we're breathing in a piece of heaven. Now when it rains, some dew from heaven comes down, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different kind of relationship which come from a different kind of context, which we have tried to translate into what we consider valuable within our culture. And as a result of that, we gradually come to the realization at the moment when we look deeper into things that the common use of energy in Chinese medicine is wrong. And the same with the Shun, even though it sounds amazing that the Shun might mean spirit, although Shun can mean divine and can mean God at the same time, like in Kuai Shun, demon, God, and that means God and demon are the same, and that is very different from Western context. So Shun as spiritual means that demons are spiritual, and that is in contrast with Western ideas at the same time. But in the way how it is being used in, for instance, the Shandong Jing and other Taoist scriptures is more like the animal awareness that we have at the root of everything, and that has to gradually be developed until eventually it reaches a sort of a peak where it becomes all-encompassing, so that we do not forget things, that we do not leave out things. Similarly, in Taoism, in the Tao Te Ching, it talks about Wu Wei, and Wu Wei is the method on which also the practice of Tai Chi is being based. And in the West, this is being translated very often as laissez-faire politics, of laissez-faire economy, where we try to let things go in the way that they go and not try to interfere with things. And although that concept is in general is in accord, but what we mean is that we should let things go in the way how nature would let them happen, not in our convoluted society where marketing and politics are continuously interfering with everything, so that nothing has become natural anymore. And then we have all these artificial things around us, which I'm not against, because I'm using a phone, right? And I'm using this also for video recordings. But all these kind of things make that letting things go by nature is not really an option. The thing is, what is an option is that at the moment when we look at our morality, that we can say, some things that we do actually are immoral. Like, for instance, just accepting a meaning because everybody uses it. That is immoral. We have not investigated it. We don't have the knowledge to use it like that. It's a friend concept. It means it comes from a different culture, and we do not really know what it means in that culture. So why would we translate it like that? Because it suits us and our theoretical framework. And how do we find proof for the fact that it is like that? Because people investigate it and say, like, look, I measured energy. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is true, because the energy that they measure usually is not that what they mean in Chinese medicine culture and in Chinese spiritual culture or Taoist culture, in religious culture. And that is what is really very interesting and also confusing. And we are in that sense complicit to that process. We are part of the conspiracy to try to take away the value of other cultures by replacing them with our own values. This is part of our colonial past, which we are still progressing through the way how we basically influence concepts from other cultures. In the past, not that far away actually, people were trying to find concepts in other culture, and they tried to find the universal values and all these kind of things. There was something that they thought there was a universal language at the beginning of everything because of the myth of Adam and Eve, and there was all kind of other ideas about the unification going far back. And now we already know, for instance, from Göbekli Tepe and other places like that, that the culture there was so different from anything that came after, that there is no real relationship there that we can perceive at this moment. And in the same way, there's cave paintings, we have actually no idea what they mean. We just have put a meaning on it which seemed suitable. Stonehenge, we still don't know actually what it was for, to a degree. And maybe it wasn't as important as we thought about it, but as we think about it, but there are a lot of people that put a lot of emphasis on it, and a lot of other Stone Age monuments and Neolithic monuments, they are being forgotten. They are not as famous as Stonehenge. So Stonehenge has become an icon, and therefore the meaning has become iconic also, even though maybe it's a fake meaning. So with all these kind of things, we come to understand that actually what we are doing in Chinese medicine is creating a new science. We create something new by using words like energy and stuff like this, and we try to morph it into something that it isn't originally, and something that it has become. And when it lasts long enough and generations are using it, then it's being perceived as being true. We do the same like the different dynasties in China have done in the past by morphing things into something that is more suitable for the ideas of that dynasty. And something, of course, of the original meaning is being kept. But in Chinese medicine, most of what is kept nowadays is its methodologies, not its ideas. So as a result of that, there's a different kind of training necessary. This learning that you need to do for actually understanding these concepts is not found in current TCM schools. Even if they talk about energy medicine, or they do the TCM version of the Chinese government, or they do the medical acupuncture methods from doctors who are basically saying that acupuncture is suspicious and superstitious also at the same time. So, concluding, we are the conspiracy. We are the conspiracy because in effect we are not really aware of what things mean, and as a result that we actually do not do our research. We just read the books and we think they wrote it down, so probably it's true. We are a little bit naive. That's the reality. Are we stupid? In some cases, but in reality we are naive. Did you like this movie? I did. And I hope you liked it too. If you are agreeing with me in some of the topics of this movie, then I would very much appreciate if you show in the comments below a little bit of your observations. And if you agree about the concept of Qi being the same as Smurf in the way how it is being used, then please also say something about it. If you have a counter argument, because I like discussion, then I don't mind if you tell me that. If you think I am wrong, give me a good argument why I think energy is the correct meaning, because everybody uses that concept. I don't mind. I really don't mind. What is the best though is going to dialogue with me during my classes when I give Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong and so forth, meditation, and also all kind of other Chinese medicine classes where I prove all the time that the word Smurf is not that relevant. Sign up if you can. Become a member of this channel, and also maybe sign up for my Patreon to sponsor these kind of videos, because I'll promise always to have this critical note on Chinese medicine in whatever I do, because I like Chinese medicine.